Hey everyone, I just wanted to show you a couple little scripts I've been working on lately for Fusion 360. While they're not directly geared toward guitars, I do think some users might find them beneficial. Their primary focus is helping with consistency across your parameters. The more you get more into a heavily driven parametric model, the more parameters you have. And if you don't necessarily have the best convention starting out, it can get a little sloppy along the way. So, real quick, currently I use what's called camel casing, which is a lowercase letter at the beginning, and then every word essentially that's concatenated with that has an uppercase letter. So, if this were right here, you got lowercase, uppercase, and then we have fractions, we have decimals. Here we have some unnecessary exterior parentheses, and as well as if we were to use double quotes, instead of having inch there, you can see, there's just some inconsistency errors. And then here, if you decide later on, oh, maybe I don't really like camel casing, going through here and renaming everything one by one can be kind of tedious. And then if you don't really have, if you haven't been adhering to a naming convention, then this can get real sloppy. So, so the first script I'm going to go through it's called PrettyParameters Tidy. And what this is going to do is this is going to rename all your parameter names to make them more consistent and adhere them all to a single naming convention. And then it'll go through and it will remove any double quotes, anything like that, any symbols from your measurements, as well as remove any unnecessary exterior parentheses. The logic for trying to find any unnecessary parentheses is going to be a lot more difficult, and that might not be something I try to dabble into, because that could really end up ruining a lot of people's equations if it's done wrong. And then it's going to have the option if you want to convert those fractions to decimals. Some people like working with both, so it's just an option. So I'm going to run this, and as you see, it's processing. Currently, it's going through and renaming all your names. And then it's going to prompt me if I want to do a conversion to decimal or not. Convert user decimal expressions to decimal. Sure, why not? And then parameter expressions converted to decimal. This is just a little bug I got to fix because that won't close. Okay, now let's go back to our parameters. And you see here that this has been unified to match everything else. Your fractions are now gone. And then your exterior parentheses are now gone, as well as everything's been converted to what's called Pascal case, which is capital and capital. Previously, we were using camel case, which was lowercase and capital. So I do intend to have the option where you can choose which casing you want to go toward. If you like to use snake casing, upper snake casing, there aren't too many options Fusion parameters will accept. You can't put hyphens in there, so you can't do like train casing or anything like that. So it's basically going to be Pascal, camel, and some snake casings. All right, so the next one I want to show you is if you've worked heavily with parameters before, you realize once you create a parameter, you can't change the unit. You can change the name, you can change the expression, which then drives the value. But this is pretty much set in stone. So I know a lot of people like to share their files, and when you get an inconsistency between imperial and metric, yeah, you can go in here, you can convert this to a metric number and put millimeters in there. So what is this, like 660 millimeters? So yeah, that works just fine, but that gets kind of ugly if that's not what you want. So no. So the other part of the script is going to be, it's going to convert all your units to metric. Currently, it only does inch to millimeter and millimeter to inch. Later on, again, I'm going to try to add the abilities so you can use a target. So if you're working in microns, but you want to convert to nautical miles, you can do that. So let's go through and let's see. Oh yeah, as well as with the conversion earlier, it leaves all your, from converting to decimal to your fraction to decimal, it leaves anything that, any expression with a parameter in it alone. So, and then so here we have the PrettyParameters Convert module. And right here it says my units, if you see here, current units are inches, click OK to switch to millimeters. Okay, this is going to take a bit, depending on how extensive your scene is. I have a lot of parameters. So what this does is this will jump to the end of your timeline so it can access all the parameters in your scene. Right now this is just a graphical error with the API, so we're here, but it still shows us here. So it went through and what it's doing behind the scenes is it's storing all your original parameters into a dictionary, and then it's creating a copy, renaming your original parameters with a prefix that's just a temporary prefix, and then it goes through and it reconnects all your expressions to your new parameters. It goes back and deletes all your old parameters. So it's several stages. It takes a couple moments. It's not perfect. I'll show you some current issues that are there. And then now it's computing because it's going to so yeah, it jumps to the end. It suppresses all your timeline groups. So if you're not working with timeline groups and you just have a whole string of features here, this could take even longer. Again, that's something I hope to improve later on. So if we see here, now all my measurements are in millimeter. So we go here and everything is in millimeter. For the user expressions, if we go down to the model expressions, which are your design / all expressions, I haven't gone through and added the logic for converting these to millimeter either. So if we go down, yeah, so here we have a imperial fraction. Here we have an imperial float. So there's still some work. Some of the logic as well is what makes this difficult is if I were to be, especially for the unit conversion, if I say, well, every number that's an expression, I want you to convert. Well, then you have, this is going to be tang width divided by, instead of just being a unitless value, it's going to see that as 2 millimeters, and that's going to give you a different value. So the logic for that has to be a little bit more figured out. But so far it works. For simple files, it works just fine. I hope to package this up here this weekend so people can try to use it. So different use case scenarios and debugging. I only have my files to work with. My files are pretty centralized over my type of workflow. So letting other people use it to see what kind of errors they can run into, what kind of logic fails and stuff like that would be really beneficial to hopefully improve this down the line. Again, it's nothing super substantial, but I think being able to convert the units, I think that'll hopefully help a lot of people out. So let me know if there's anything you didn't like, anything you did like, anything you think I could like to add, especially for the first module, which is the tidying stuff up and the PrettyParameters. I think that would be really cool to try to make this more robust and more beneficial to the community. So thanks again. Let me know.